Hello everyone, in this video let's have a quick intro to deep learning and then let's discuss about Perceptron, which is mathematical equivalent of biological neuron. Basically, you guys already know what is deep learning. We have seen this in introductory session itself. Basically, what is deep learning? Deep learning is a subpart of machine learning. So if you think this whole big region is of machine learning, and within this machine learning we'll be having something called as deep learning. And how is this particular machine learning different from this deep learning? By using something called as neural networks. Now let's discuss what are these neural networks and what is the basic unit of neural network and how these are built, all these things. So before going on to that, basically the idea of deep learning is to build something which is same as brain. Basically, what is AI? AI is nothing but mimicking human intelligence or human behavior, right? And how this human is getting the intelligence? He's getting it from his brain, right? So if these scientists can implement mathematically this brain itself, then it's done, right? So that is what they tried. So in order to do that, instead of thinking of whole brain at a time, they just thought of building the basic unit of brain, that is neuron. I think all of you guys might have studied it in maybe 10th or 11th. What is this neuron? Neuron is a basic unit of brain, and our brain is made up of several trillions of neurons. This we already know. Now let's try to see the biological neuron structure, and let's see how these scientists came up with this mathematical neuron, or it is even called as perceptron. Okay, so let's try to quickly understand this biological neuron. So if you think of biological neuron, it will look something like this. Our biological neuron will look something like this, where the processing of this neuron will happen in this particular central point, that is nucleus. Okay, and the portion around this particular nucleus, that is called as cell body. So basically this cell body will get all of the information from various sources, and it is summed up in the cell body and it is sent to the nucleus. In nucleus, whole of the processing will happen, and all this processed information will be sent through this axon, and finally we'll be having something called as axon terminals. Through these axon terminals, it will be sending the processed information by this neuron to the other neurons. Okay, so in brain we are having multiple neurons, right? So this output of this neuron will be connected to several other neurons. Okay, and similarly it is getting inputs from these connections, and these connections were also called as dendrites. These dendrites will give us input information to the cell body, and this cell body sums up whole of the information, and finally it is sending it to the nucleus, and nucleus process the whole information, and whichever it feels it is important, that is only passed through the axon to the other neurons. Okay, so this is the working of biological neuron, and these scientists tried implementing this mathematically, and that is called as perceptron. Let's see what is this perceptron or neuron. So basically, if you think of normal machine learning algorithm, what are the inputs to it? The inputs are the features. So let's say our input features are x1, x2, x3, so on, xn, right? So here through dendrites, we are getting multiple inputs, right? So here the inputs are x1, x2, x3, xn, and these were passed to the brain, or in case of like we are discussing about neuron, right? So these inputs will be passed to the neurons. Let's say these are the connections which are connecting this x1, x2, x3, xn to the neuron. And basically here if you observe, we are having cell body, right? So this cell body sums up whole of the input information. Similarly, here we'll sum up the whole input information, and finally here we are having something called as nucleus, where it processes some information. So here we will be having some function. That function is called as activation function, and we might be having several different activation functions. We have something like sigmoid, and also we have something like tanh, and we have relu, leaky relu, linear, like that. There are so many activation functions. Maybe in the coming few videos, we'll be discussing few of these activation functions as well. And finally, after passing through this function, it's like processing the input information, and finally we'll be getting the output. Okay. And here if you observe, here we are having several dendrites, right? And through these dendrites, we'll be getting inputs. Like let's say through this we are getting x1, through this we are getting x2, through this we are getting x3, and through this we are getting x4, and through this we are getting x5. And whichever input is having higher importance, that will be sent through the dendrite which is having higher thickness. So let's say x2 is more important, this particular dendrite will be having higher thickness. Okay, like that our brain will be building it. But in case of some mathematical structure, we can't show something kind of thickness. So how can we show this thickness over here? We can show it with the help of weights. So each of this connection will be associated with some weight. So if the weight is more, that means that like this, the corresponding input, let's say W2 is the highest, that means corresponding input X2 is more important. Like that, we'll be showing it to the neuron or perceptron that we are having. And finally, we'll be getting the output. And if we write down the output equation, it will look something like this: f of summation of I from 1 to n. Here, what we will be summing up? The inputs associated with the weights. So xi, wi, or we can write it in reverse as well. Somewhere you can find it in reverse as well. So this will be the output equation of our basic structure, that is neuron, or basic of neural networks, that is neuron or perceptron. Like basically all this deep learning is made up of several such neurons only. So there might be slight differences. We'll be seeing it in further classes, but the basic, like very basic to the deep learning is this particular neuron. And deep learning is really, really important. Nowadays, everything that you are seeing in real world are built with the help of deep learning. Deep learning has become this popular. That is only due to the amount of computational power that we have nowadays, and also we have too much of data. Because of these two reasons, we are able to build such really good deep learning models. Obviously, within deep learning, there are too many problems. We need to learn how to solve them as well. Okay, maybe in the coming videos, we'll see what are the next topics and how to resolve if there are any problems. All these things we'll be discussing one by one. And I hope you guys liked this video. And if you have any other doubts, please comment down in the comment section. Thank you everyone. Bye bye.